This is the 2019 Volkswagen Jetta, and I found something out today that I wasn't aware. The best-selling Volkswagen in Canadian history isn't the Golf, isn't the Beetle, it's the Jetta. 600,000 have been sold in Canada alone, so this 2019 is an important car for Volkswagen. It has often been looked at as the value model, and they're adding more content into this car and hoping that people will consider a sedan instead of just rushing towards a crossover vehicle. It already was the biggest vehicle in this class, and now it's just a little bit bigger again. Much more aerodynamic looking, creases on the hood. One thing I like, you get standard LED headlamps on this car. They're either reflector LEDs or projector LEDs on the higher trim lines. Around the back, LED tail lamps as well. Wheel sizes are 16 or 17 inches, and the good news, there's no steel wheels with hubcaps. They are all alloys in the Canadian market. Also in Canada, you can get the R line, and this gives you a 15mm drop in the suspension. And that's the one thing I noticed when I saw this car at the Detroit Auto Show. It sits a little high in its suspension, so the R-line might be the way to go to get around that. The trunk has always been huge in the Jetta. This is no different, a massive trunk. However, not crazy about the exposed hinges. Let's get inside, we'll talk about the interior and take it for a drive. So I've had a day to drive around Raleigh, North Carolina, and I want to tell you about the things that have always worked for Jetta and what's been carried over, and especially what's new. So what's worked for Jetta after all these years? First of all, size. This was the biggest car in the compact class, and now it's just slightly bigger. And that gives you a lot of space on the inside. Even though it's got a slightly more sexy look on the outside, there is more room, more hip room, shoulder room, leg room, you name it. So it's a nice sized car. Now what has also been carried over is the 1.4 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. This is a real sweetheart engine. And some people might look at it and say, you know what, I want a bigger 1.8 or a 2 liter that Volkswagen sells. Try this engine out. It is fantastic because what you pay for on paper a lot of times is horsepower. What you use is torque. And this engine has a lot of torque at 184 pound-feet. Horsepower is 147. So there really, trust me, is no lack of grunt to get the job done for everyday commuting. Now the other thing is, a lot of other car companies are moving towards continuously variable transmissions to affect fuel economy. This car, instead of going that route, they added more gears with the manual and with the automatic. The manual has now gone from a 5-speed to a 6-speed. A lot of people will be welcoming that. And about 20% of Jetta buyers, that's quite a high number, go for the manual transmission. Then you move to the automatic. It's now an 8-speed automatic transmission. Now think about that for a second. 8-speed in a compact car, that's pretty good stuff. And in my personal taste, I would take an automatic like this over a CVT any day of the week. The other nice thing is you just pull on the lever and it switches into sport mode rather quickly. Now let's get into some of the other stuff that's in this car, like the in-dash technology and what's available on the inside. Well, every Jetta in Canada comes with heated seats and cloth seats. I have the middle one here with the pleather or the faux leather, and then when you go to the exec line, you get leather seats. So heated up front and available not right away, but later in the year, is a package with a heated steering wheel and heated rear seats, which is nice. The dash comes standard on the base model with a 6.5-inch head unit, Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, and a backup camera. Now, most of them are going to be sold with the larger 8-inch unit and has a sort of a glass cover over it, makes it look more polished and integrated into the dashboard. So that's most of them will have that. And also, it's the digital dashboard with a 10.25-inch digital cockpit that's configurable. I'm not a huge fan of these. I think they're a bit gimmicky, but I'm sure some people like them. Now the big one is, they have moved this Jetta to the Mqb platform, the same platform as the Golf that won all kinds of awards. They're using the platform for the Tiguan and the Atlas and now the Jetta. But what's interesting is they didn't go to an independent rear suspension, which is a bit of a puzzle until you drive the car. And I know a lot of you are going to roll your eyes and you're going to say, Zach, you're just a Volkswagen fanboy. But I'm not making this up. They have actually figured this out. I don't know how. Driving here for a day, going over some really large bumps, railroad tracks, and they've figured this out. I think it probably has to do with the shocks that they're using. They might be the new frequency selective dampeners. I'm not sure, but it absorbs bumps beautifully. And one of the criticisms of a torsion beam rear design that is used in this car, what you typically get over bumps is the back hops up and down. There's none of that at all. Somebody who was talking to at lunch today said, if you took anybody and put them in this car, would they notice that there's not an independent rear suspension? And I think they're right. I don't think they would know. I think the average person is going to drive this and be perfectly happy. And in my experience today, it hasn't been an issue. And I think what they're able to do is keep the cost down on the car. And that, for a lot of people, is more important. So the trend in the entire industry is to sort of get rid of the base models, bring the average price up, and we're seeing that with all the competitors. So Volkswagen's done the same. They've gotten rid of the trend line and they've started with comfort line. So the base model manual transmission is now roughly $21,000. If you get the automatic, $22,395. That's the base model and goes all the way up to $29,000 for the exec line. Here's one thing though, the advanced suite of safety features, forward collision warning, autonomous braking, they call that the driver assist package, is still $1,000 more on the top two trims. That's something they should be adding in as standard equipment, and it'll probably be coming in the years to come. So Volkswagen went to great lengths to tell us that they've added a lot more equipment into this car, and the price is actually better than the previous model. If you compare model to model, it's a bigger car, it's more comfortable. I particularly like the fact that it's got an 8-speed automatic transmission now, LED headlamps, and a lot of great in-dash technology. So if you're not rushing towards a utility vehicle and you still like the idea of a good-sized car, the Jetta certainly is worth a try.